Hello and welcome to the Westminster Institute. I'm Bob Riley, its director and your host for another in a series of Westminster Zoom lectures. Today we're going to discuss China on the occasion of the 100th anniversary of the Chinese Communist Party, which has ruled China since 1949. Here to discuss the ramifications of that, we have a guest from China, Chen Guangcheng, who is a distinguished fellow at the Center for Human Rights at the Catholic University of America. Joining him is William Saunders, who is Human Rights Fellow and Director of the Program in Human Rights for the Institute of Human Ecology, also at the Catholic University. After growing up blind in China, Chen Guangcheng built a reputation for himself as a self-trained barefoot lawyer who advocated against the brutal tactics used by the Chinese government to enforce the state's one-child policy. After surveying residents of the Shandong province where he lived, Guangcheng learned that there were 130,000 residents who reported being abducted, intimidated, or beaten for violations of the policy. As a result of his investigation, Guangcheng was imprisoned by the Chinese government for more than 4 years and placed under illegal house arrest with his family for another 7 years. During that time, he and his wife suffered beatings and torture. He made a harrowing escape from house arrest in 2012 by scaling walls and feeling his way through farmland with a broken foot. He was given refuge in the US Embassy in Beijing, which occasioned a diplomatic crisis. He is the author of The Barefoot Lawyer, A Blind Man's Fight for Justice and Freedom in China, which gives his account of the escape and the extraordinary life he led prior to it. Chen Guangcheng and Bill Saunders will talk about the 100th anniversary of the Communist Party this July 1st. Mr. Chen has accused the CCP of, quote, terrorizing its own people and threatening the well-being of the world, unquote. President Xi Jinping has said, quote, time and history are on our side, unquote, and this is why he has called China, quote, invincible, unquote. Billboards across China announce, quote, listen to the party, appreciate the party, follow the party, unquote. Chen Guangcheng and Bill Saunders, welcome to the program.
Very glad to be with you, Bob.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm so happy to be here to talk with you. And today I'm so happy to talk with Bob. You know, we are friends each other. Before we talk a lot about the Communist Party, about how the CCP, you know, the Communist Party, we just call it CCP, how it is used their long arms to influence the US. So today we will talk more about how to evolve the Communist Party in mainland China and in the whole world. Thank you, my friend.
Hey, Bob, could I add one thing, if you don't mind? It's a little bit of a commercial, but Chen Guangcheng and I work together in the Center for Human Rights at Catholic University of America. And I also have a Master of Arts in Human Rights at the School of Arts and Sciences. And so I just want people who are listening that if they want to follow Guangcheng, he is here at Catholic University, and he is part of our Master of Arts in Human Rights program. He addresses the students, and the students get to know him. So I just wanted to say that for anybody who's out there that gets interested and wants to follow up and maybe become a student.
Well, I can even give a personal testimony to that, Bill, because as you well know, my oldest daughter is a beneficiary of your program and recently graduated with a master's degree from it. So thank you for that.
It was great to have him.
Please, Guangcheng, go ahead with your thoughts on the subject you just touched upon.
Hong Kong, the 100th anniversary of the Communist Party.
Yeah, I think first of all, I want to talk, you know, now about Hong Kong. That is a big news and very hot on the internet in the whole world. You know, last year, the Communist Party created a evil law. Yeah, because I just call it evil law. You know, yeah, on the internet, a lot of people call it evil law. Yeah, that is, in fact, that is not a real law. That is just a tool the Communist Party to use it to control Hong Kong. You know, since last year, the Communist Party used that evil law to destroy the judiciary in Hong Kong. And since 1 month ago, the Communist Party used the evil law to destroy the free speech for the media in Hong Kong. 13 days ago, the Communist Party ordered 500 special police to went to the building of the Apple Daily newspaper to check their office and to caught 5 leaders about that and put them in jail. 4 days ago, the Communist Party caught 2 journalists. They work for Apple Daily newspaper. They just write some editorial, yeah, for the newspaper. So because they write the news, they let the whole people know what's happening in mainland China and in Hong Kong and in the whole world. So the Communist Party so hate them. So they try to use this law to punish them. Just today, I talked with some people in Hong Kong. I know, you know, one journalist, her name is Xing Tongtong. Before, you know, she worked for the Radio Free Asia in the US. When I was in mainland China and when I came here, she interviewed me several times. But today, the Communist Party caught her and put her in jail. So you can see the Communist Party used the evil law as a tool to control Hong Kong's media. Now, Hong Kong became mainland China. They lost the judiciary and the free speech. So I hope the US, the government, the US people stand up with another democratic countries and stand with the Chinese people to fight the authoritarian regime, to help Chinese people to protect their rights. So that is very important now. Another thing is, you know, the Communist Party used that law to ask the banks to freeze money of the Yi Chuanmei. The media's name is Yi Chuanmei, include Apple Daily newspaper. So now the workers in Apple Daily newspaper, they can't get salary. Workers, yes, they can't get the salary. So last, the June 24th, the Apple Daily newspaper have to stop print. And the final day, they print 1 million newspapers. You know, the Hong Kong people come to the store to buy all of them. So they very sad the Communist Party used the evil law to control the media. And the Hong Kong people hope in the future the Apple Daily will come back Hong Kong soon and continue to print the newspaper. So yeah, this is a new situation just in Hong Kong. You know, the Communist Party not stop to do the evil thing.
As Guangcheng said, Hong Kong, unfortunately, now is part of mainland China. And the elements of social control in China exercised by the Communist Party seem extensive enough that one sinologist says it is now a semi-totalitarian country. The social credit system that is being implemented, the vast facial recognition system that is being in place, I suppose it's in Xinjiang where that is implemented most thoroughly. The human rights abuses there as well as in Tibet. The Communist Party seems to be clamping down to the extent that the people in China don't have any space within which to exercise rights or protest the abuse of them.
So, Guangcheng and I were talking that with the anniversary coming up on July the 1st, that the Communist Party has put all the activists in jail. And what else is it doing in Beijing?
Yeah, about the 100 years, about the Communist Party's birthday, the Communist Party now tried to to stop any when the activists go outside. All my friends and colleagues house arrest now. So in Beijing, the Communist Party stop any bags about the post.
No delivery of mail.
Yeah, no delivery mail in Beijing. And if the people who live surround the central government office, the company stop give them gas. So the people ask the company how we can cook. The company said, okay, I just give you a little money. So you can use this money to buy food from the restaurant. After the July 1st, after 1 week, we will give the gas back to you. So now looks like very, very dangerous in Beijing, and the people can't come to Beijing, and you can't buy any knives from a store.
Can't buy a knife.
Cannot.
Yeah,
Cannot buy knives in store. And in Shanghai, you can't go outside or in some special part. And for the religions, you have to stop to do anything. So yeah, that is very dangerous. So a lot of Chinese people write a message on the internet, said, okay, happy birthday to you, the CCP, 100 years. Sounds good, but in fact, that's not good. The people's meaning is only 100 birthdays, no 101.
What Guangcheng was saying is that they put on the internet happy 100th birthday,
Yeah,
which sounds like they support the CCP,
Yes.
but what it really means is this is your last birthday. There will be no 101.
Yes. This is the final one.
all right. Well, let's continue with that conversation. It's as I'm sure you know, President Xi had senior party members take the oath of loyalty to the party again. Now, what is on what pillars does the party rest today, which means also the country? People usually say there are two main pillars. One is nationalism, that President Xi has been stoking nationalism, and that the China dream is to come out of the century of humiliation. And the other major pillar is prosperity. that people will continue to support the party so long as their prosperity continues to grow. So nationalism and prosperity. Guangcheng and Bill, do you agree with that? Are those the two pillars in the, and does the actual ideology not have any serious believers left?
I think, in fact, in mainland China, more and more people, I think now more than half don't believe anything from the Communist Party's propaganda. But if you just get the information from the internet, looks like a lot of people still to support the Communist Party, but that is wrong. That is not real. The people are thinking, you know, because the censorship. If you write something on the internet, if the Communist Party like it, the party will keep it on the internet. If the party don't like that, the party will delete it. Even if you write some message, the Communist Party will delete your account. So yeah, for example, you know, the Communist Party just May 31st changed the 2 policy to a 3-child policy, right? The meaning is because the forced abortion in mainland China, now the children not enough. The society become older and older. So that is very dangerous for the future. So the Communist Party hope the people will have the 3rd baby. But when the Communist Party released the information, 90.34% people said, I will not follow your policy. So the Communist Party wrote an article on his mouthpiece, tried to encourage people follow that policy. But yeah, you can see more than 90% people disagree about that. So later, just one day, the Communist Party have to delete that article because a lot of comments criticize to the Communist Party. So yeah, so that is proof. In fact, only a few people continue to support the Communist Party, and the Communist Party prepared the people write the article or message on the internet to give the people looks like, or still have some people support it, but that's not true.
Chen Guangcheng, it's extremely ironic that the party has reached this new position of a 3-child policy and is even discussing removing any limits to family growth, when this is the very issue on which you made your reputation in exposing the forced abortions and the terrible punishments meted out to Chinese people in your province of Shandong who were not complying with the 1-child policy. That this many years later, the party should now at least tacitly admit that this was a policy that's not good for China. Can you discuss other bad effects of this 1-child policy that China is going to have to live with for a long time? For instance, that there are so many more males than females and that kind of thing. How is this going to affect China's future?
Because the Communist Party did the forced abortions are around 40 years. So that makes a lot of problems in the society. Yeah, you just mentioned about the male and female, right? That, yeah, maybe, yeah, that is very, very dangerous. Now, a lot of people in mainland China, maybe some people said more than 10 million men will will not have wife. And another thing is, because the Communist Party kill a lot of babies in the 40 years have passed. So now the people not respect the life. Yeah, they think the life not very important. So now in mainland China, if for example, if some car hit some people on the street, no one come to help him. That is very, very dangerous. I saw some video from Henan province. Some woman walk on the street. The first car hit her and make her fall down. And more than 1 minute, she tried sit up, but not successful. Some people just go for a walk on the street, but no one come to help her. After 1 minute, another SUV come here and hit her again, make her die. That is so sad in our country, right? So this just because Communist Party's evil policy to make the people don't believe the life very, very important for society, for everyone. So yeah, that is so sad. And not just this, a lot of like this in mainland China happened. So just because the Communist Party created the evil policy. So now, at that time, the Communist Party used the force way to make the women to kill their babies, but now give the society a lot of problems. Now just someone happy. In the future, will more and more the problem will happen in mainland China. And if every for the society should be have 2.1% new babies every year. But now in mainland China only have 1.3 babies born every year. In the future, the society will old and old, and after 5 years or even 7 years, the population will decline more and more.
Let's say, Guangcheng, that the Communist Party is not able to celebrate a 101st anniversary. What is there in China that could replace it? Your story about the lack of respect for human life is very discouraging. If the traditional moral fiber of the Chinese people has been eroded, what is left that can replace the Communist Party?
Okay, I think, now a lot of Chinese people are awake, but just because the Communist Party control the military, the police use the force way to stop them. So the people understand. The Communist Party understand, the people understand it. The people know, but they don't write something on the internet. Yeah, if they write something on the internet, the Communist Party will send the police come to your house to take you and put you in jail. So now, in fact, a lot of people understand and they prepare for in the future. If the Communist Party gone, the people will stand up to help the country to become the democratic country. I think not worry about that. Only problem is how to turn down the CCP. If we can turn down the CCP, China will better and better, because a lot of people understand the democratic system, the free speech, like that is very important for the society. They know how to create the new system for the future. So, but the problem is the Western country, the Western government, they can't connect with them. They don't know a lot of people weakened and work for the country in the future now. So, but we know we use secret apps, connect each other every day. We know a lot of people, they discuss about this in the secret room on the internet. They use the secret apps. The Communist Party can't come in to listen to them. They can't stop them to use that. So yeah, this is why the Communist Party very scared of people against them.
I know from my own experience working in US government public diplomacy, the Voice of America and other institutions, that the United States really has no means to reach the Chinese people because the CCP is so effective in blocking our transmissions. It's very hard to get through. So it's very hard for the United States to judge the character of people in China today. And all that is seen is the increasing control that Xi Jinping, president for life, is exercising over the people. And of course, this huge celebration of the 100th anniversary is a demonstration of its control and of his power. So it's, you are telling a very different story about a very different China. And
yes, that is very, very different. This is why I hope the Western government should work with us. If they can't work with us, they will not understand the real situation in mainland China. Looks like the Communist Party very powerful, but in fact, the people very powerful in mainland China now. We can connect with the activists in mainland China, but it looks like the government, the Western governments, they don't know that. So maybe they think, oh, no people can replace the Communist Party if the Communist Party is gone. But that is not true. I think the Western government, especially the US government, the bad administration, they don't want against the Communist Party. They still want to continue to make a deal with the devil. That is not good. If we continue to make a deal with the devil will use different way to destroy our freedom, free speech, the democratic system. That is very dangerous for our country. For example, the coronavirus, right? You can see a lot of people died in our country. That's much, much more than Pearl Harbor, right? Yeah, much, much more Pearl Harbor. Why is the US government continue to dialogue with the devil? That does not work. So we should use another way to punish it, to stop the Communist Party threaten well-being of the world. We have to do that. So we should use our influence to encourage the Western country to stand up to do that, not just use the appeasement to work with the Communist Party. That not work.
it's very interesting that public opinion in the United States, and indeed in most of Europe, has turned very much against China. In fact, the negative opinion of China and the CCP has risen to historic heights. So one result of President Xi let us say, showing the muscle, the military muscle and the economic muscle of China has frightened many in the West and produced this negative opinion. On the other hand, China has gained huge leverage over the West, including the United States. Economic leverage because of its huge economy, and let's say military leverage through the massive modernization of its military forces, the construction of what's now the largest navy in the world, its militarization of the islands in the South China Sea and so forth. So there's a kind of a double effect here. One is there's almost unanimity that China presents an enormous problem for the West, but there's also this incapacity to react because of the leverage China already exercises.
I think US have a lot of way to stop the Khan Party. Yeah. For example, if just use the global Magnitsky to punish some officials of the Khan Party, that is not enough to stop the Khan Party do the evil thing in the future. So, for example, if the US tried to stop the Khan Party, use the dollar system, that will be very, very powerful. Yeah, and I know the Khan Party's influence very deep in the US, but we have to think how to stop that. If continue let the Khan Party influence the universities, the middle schools, the high schools, even the small schools, that is very, very dangerous. Not just the schools. You can see now in the US, for example, the Hollywood, no one wants to make a film about human rights, about China like that. Yeah, that is very, very deep. So the US, I think the US know how to do that because the Trump administration, they did a lot. For example, you can see the Pompeo. Yeah, Pompeo gave us several speeches about that. Yeah, in the US, in Europe, that is very, very important. If the US continue follow that policy, in the future, the US will win. But if continue use the appeasement of policy, the US will fail. So I think the US know how to do that. The problem is we should push them to do that. Not just talk, do that. The US citizenship should push the US government to do that.
As I mentioned, there does appear to be a bipartisan consensus in the United States to do that. And the Biden administration so far has largely kept a great deal of the Trump policy toward China. So we'll see. Now, the mention of human rights raises a subject, one on which you, Bill, have spent a great deal of your life, and that is religious freedom. Can both of you discuss what religious freedom is like in China today?
Yes, I was just going to say that religious freedom is a fundamental, maybe the foundational plank of a just society and of a democratic system. And China, the CCP, is oppressing religion everywhere it can be because it wants Chairman Xi to be worshipped essentially and to have no other gods but Chairman Xi. And Guangcheng will tell you more details in a second, but it has been very hard against the Christians, Catholics, and Protestants, the Tibetan Buddhists, the Muslim Uyghurs, the Falun Gong, all of them it's trying to crush.
Mhm. Yes, yeah. In fact, the Communist Party don't want any religions except the communism. In mainland China, the Catholics and Christians are persecuted. A lot of churches and crises were turned down by the Communist Party. I remember just Zhejiang province, more than 1,000 churches and crosses were destroyed by the Communist Party. So now that spread to Henan province and Shandong, Fujian, Guangdong provinces. So now even the Communist Party has made its own version of Bible. It says the religions, the Christians should obey the leader of the Communist Party. So, the Communist Party tried to replace the God. So, yeah, that is dangerous. More than, I think, over 1 million Uyghurs, the Communist Party concentration camps and shipped by train to another prison in mainland China. And more than, I remember, 156 Tibetans have self-immolated. They put a lot of Falun Gong in jail and detained and tortured more than 3,000 Falun Gong prisoners. They killed them in prison. So that is very, very dangerous. So now if the Communist Party asks the religion come to the party's church, if you are not going there, the Communist Party will find a way to put you in jail. So yeah, that situation is very worse and worse. Yeah, I think if the Communist Party continue control the power in mainland China, no space for religions.
I've heard that in certain Christian churches, the party members have removed the crucifix or the cross and replaced it with pictures of President Xi.
Yeah, that is true.
That is true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you come in the church, you have to sing in some song for the party. You have to mention the President Xi first, the Communist Party first, then you will talk to God. That is the situation in mainland China.
Well, if so few, if any people continue to actually believe in communism, in Marxism, Leninism, it seems implausible that communism could replace religion. On the other hand, it's perhaps it's less that and more a new Maoism with Xi as the new Mao. In other words, it's a cult of personality. Would that be accurate to say that?
She wants that, but I think that will be not successful, because now the people know what is true, what is justice, and what is injustice. So, I can tell you a story. When the Communist Party put me under house arrest in mainland China, the Communist Party tried to use the Cultural Revolution way to give me trouble. They prepare more than 50 people come to the farmer's house. Yeah, every farmer's house they come to tell them that, you know, Guangcheng work for the US. Yeah, he is a very bad person. You can't support him. You should find a way to give him trouble. But no our neighbors and no our neighbor village believe that. After that, the people come to my relation, my family member, and tell them that, you know, the Communist Party come to my house and tell me Guangcheng is an evil person. So, but they said, yeah, several years, I see what Guangcheng doing. I know what is right or what is wrong. I don't believe what the Communist Party said. So you can see around 15 years ago, even the farmer don't believe the Communist Party. So now a lot of people in the city, they can use the internet, they can get a lot of information from the Western country. So if the Communist Party try to use their propaganda to influence them, that is very, very, very difficult. So even Xi Jinping want become the second Mao or Mao, yeah, and use the cultural revolution to control the whole country. That doesn't work.
Guangcheng,
Yeah.
the firewall does not keep the Chinese people from getting information.
Yes, the firewall sometimes work, but you know, because the Chinese people, they know how to use the apps to climb the firewall. So of course, the firewall gives a lot of people trouble to visit the free website, but still have more and more people know how to use the climb apps to climb the firewall to get the information. You know, I talk with my friend in mainland China every day. They know how to climb the firewall to get the information from Western country, and to even in mainland China, they can use the secret apps to discuss to build the room to discuss each other. The Communist Party can't control that. So this is another way. You know, if the U.S. spend some money to create the apps for climb the firewall or for turn down the firewall, that will be very powerful. So that is our job. We can encourage the U.S. people to push the government to do that.
From your contacts in mainland China, how effective is the social credit and surveillance system in intimidating people in China to follow the party line?
The friend can't travel, but if the Communist Party not take their phones away, they still can use the iPhone to contact with us. You know, yeah, I know that is dangerous for them under house arrest and continue use the app to contact with me. But a lot of people still use that now.
He's asking particularly about the social credit system.
Oh, social credit system. The Communist Party tried to use that, but until now looks like not very useful, because if the people is not very dangerous for the party, they don't want make all people against it.
Oh.
Yeah. So if they continue, to use that to punish, for example, if the Communist Party just punish around 5% people, it's okay. If more than 10%, that is dangerous for the Communist Party. Yeah, this is why, last week, for example, the Communist Party tried to stop the Apple Daily newspaper in Hong Kong. And in mainland China, some people write a message on the internet said, oh, why 70 years ago, the Kuomintang forget to use that to control the Communist Party mouthpiece. Yeah. Another person on the internet said, because Kuomintang still have some morals. Yeah, but the Communist Party, they don't have, the meaning is that the Communist Party don't have morals now. The Communist Party understand, but the Communist Party just ignore that because a lot of people mention about that. They can't punish more than half people in mainland China. So if you are not stand up very strong to against the Communist Party, they have to ignore that. So yeah, this is why the social credit, the Communist Party sometimes see not real use that to punish the people.
Speaking of the Kuomintang, what are your thoughts on Taiwan? We've had a couple of generals speak recently to the Westminster Institute, and both agreed that the way things look now, there will be a war certainly within 5 years. What do you think about Taiwan and what Xi is going to do in respect to Taiwan?
The Communist Party tried to give Taiwan trouble, not just today, since long years ago, but looks like this year the Communist Party tried to do more about this. I think the important is the Chinese party tried to know what the U.S. government is thinking about that. That is first important. If the U.S. give some wrong information to the Communist Party, maybe they will do more the evil thing for Taiwan. If you do more for Taiwan, you will get in trouble. The Communist Party will stop to do that.
So if the U.S. stands up for Taiwan, the CCP will stop?
Yes, sure. Not just talk, real stand with Taiwan. I can show that. For example, last year, when the Communist Party used the evil law to give Hong Kong trouble, if the U.S. stand up very strong to do something to stop the Communist Party, this year will not happen something for the Apple Daily newspaper. But because since last year, the U.S. has trouble happening, so this is why the bad thing happened in Hong Kong. Another thing is very important about Hong Kong, about Taiwan. The U.S. the tech companies, they sell a lot of new technology to the Chinese companies. Then the Chinese companies work with the Communist Party's military. So the Communist Party used the Western new technology to develop weapons to fight back the U.S. How to say that? The people?
The aircraft carrier.
The aircraft there?
Aircraft carriers and the destroyers.
Yes, yeah. That is very, very dangerous. Yeah, that equal the U.S. used the new technology to beat itself. So you can see, yeah, Taiwan is important for the technology. Taiwan is important for the West country. So I think Taiwan's political system should replace the Communist Party system. not outside, not outside.
Let me ask this as a closing question, Guangcheng, and that is, China followed a policy for many years of remaining quiet while it built its strength. However, President Xi is not quiet. He is very bold in proclaiming China's goals, its military strength, its power. And when I have asked people who study China, and indeed some Chinese, why Xi did not also remain quiet while continuing to build his strength, because in 5-10 years, it would be too late for the United States to do anything about it. And the answer I received is, President Xi already thinks it's too late for the United States. It's already achieved, China's already achieved such a position of superiority that it's too late for the United States.
No. That is not true.
Is it true that he thinks that?
Let's compare Trump administration and a Biden administration, okay? Before the official, his name is Liu He. When he come here to do some dialogue with the US government, at that time is a Trump administration, right? You can see he is very, very careful to say something with the US government. To talk nice, he said, okay, we will buy some soybean, we will do something that let us talk about the business. They're very, very careful. But when after that, several years ago, the US tried to make a dialogue with the Communist Party in Alaska, right? You can see, the State Department, the person, his name is Yang Jiechi, looks like very, very strong to talk a lot more than 50 minutes to criticize to the US. But after that, he said, okay, this needn't to translate to English. They just speak that for the Chinese people. So the netizens on the internet said, okay, looks like Yang Jiechi is a dog.
So does President Xi believe the CCP is stronger than America and America cannot do anything?
No. And that is next step. Just because she looks like that, because she understands the Biden administration very different than Trump administration. For example, they know the US much more strong than Communist Party, but they know the US will not use the military to give them trouble, even will not use the strong way to give them trouble, just for dialogue, just for talk. The Communist Party never scare talk. Okay, if you are just talk, then okay, we can talk, right? You can see 1 and 1 is 2. I can see 1 and 1 is 100. No problem. Continue to do that. So I think no one believes, include Xi Jinping, they don't believe they are strong. They are more stronger than US. They know that.
This will be my last question. What is he most afraid of? In other words, what are the greatest vulnerabilities of the CCP?
I think the Communist Party are afraid of two things. One is the Chinese people awake. They know democratic system much, much more better than authoritarian regime. This is why the Communist Party prepare a lot of money to stop that. This is the one thing the Communist Party very, very scared. Another thing is now the Western country understand how to evil the Communist Party. The Communist Party not just persecuted to the Chinese people, they are threatening the well-being the world, the whole world. Yes. So now the Western country tried to join hand to fight back the Communist Party, to stop the party do the evil thing in the whole world, in the international. So if the Western country join hand with Chinese people, the Communist Party will lose their power. That is very, very, they're very scared about this.
Well, I'm afraid we're out of time. I'd like to thank Chen Guangcheng and William Saunders for joining us to discuss the significance of the 100th anniversary of the Communist Party of China today. And thank you for joining us in the audience. And I hope you will go to the Westminster Institute website and see the other videos we have on offer discussing Russia, China, the Middle East, and other vital issues of today. I'm Robert Riley, your host.